Rebecca waited for the supervisor to leave as he hunched over her desk and wiped his bald head with a dirty napkin. Across the aisle, Anjali pretended to work, tapping keys and minimizing windows while she also waited for the man to leave. He always interrupted their conversations. He snapped at the monitor. Rebecca stretched her mouth line tight, and the man laughed at her. "Okay," she said. The man spoke as he walked between rows of workers on headsets, weary eyes and glaring monitors. Anjali rolled her eyes. "So, where was I?" she asked Rebecca. "You walked in the door." "Yes, right. Okay, so I knew something was wrong when I walked in. Like, hands sweating, just, uh-oh." "What told you?" "She always greets me, comes up the hall, already mid-conversation. I just got off the phone with so-and-so." "Uh-huh. So I think she's not home, but I hear the TV on. Loud. I'm like, that's weird." Rebecca nodded. Anjali had stories most Monday mornings. Their desks were back to back, and they carried on conversations for hours while staring in opposite directions at computer screens. "So I walk in, and Mom, she's sitting in her chair, but both of her arms are raised high, just hanging in the air." Rebecca turned from the application window to see her office mate with hands over her head like she dangled from a cliff. Then they fall down, quick as rocks. And here Anjali's voice slowed down like it was a ghost story. Then they rose up again. Up and down, like someone was pulling her strings. Oh my God. Rebecca imagined her own arms moving without her say. Oh my God. "Mom!" I just start calling. "Mom, what's going on?" I walk to the front of the couch and her face is just... Anjali's dark-lidded marble eyes and warm lipstick fell slack and uneven, gravity pulling her lips and cheek down to the right. Drool. Her hands helped articulate. Dripping down her blouse. And the whole time Wheel of Fortune is blaring. And I'm starting to cry because, God, we were supposed to have lunch. Yeah. "Mom, are you okay? Mom!" I just keep saying it. Clearly fucking not. Rebecca laughed, but she wasn't sure why. And she's crying, but not on purpose, just coming down her face. And she says to me. Here Anjali paused and shaped her face into her mother's slackened mask once more. "Don't tell Tippy." Anjali laughed, but Rebecca did not join. Who's Tippy?" she asked. Anjali smirked and hit F9 on her keyboard. "It's her dog." Rebecca thought she was missing something. "See, it's not supposed to make sense. Doctor said it was just the stroke. A thunderstorm in there. Arms raising, crying, even shame gets triggered. Doctor said maybe she knew something was happening. Doesn't think about me, of course. The one thing she's afraid of? What if the dog finds out?" Anjali laughed again, but all Rebecca could say was, "Oh my God." The picture wouldn't leave her mind. Shouted her supervisor. Rebecca clicked a tab and a window appeared with a message reading, "Hi, I placed my order 2 weeks ago and it still hasn't shipped." When Rebecca came home that night, her apartment was empty because that's how it was, whether she was inside or not. She turned her TV on, though she didn't watch it, and pulled up the delivery app on her phone. She wanted to cry, but didn't. In an hour, she ate a lukewarm pad thai and fell asleep on the love seat, and when she woke, she thought this. Don't tell Tippy. She could hear the girl enunciate thunderstorm and up and down in her nasal, wide-eyed Jersey tone. The one she heard the most was this. That was the phrase she kept arguing against, like it was a conversation in an echo. Rebecca couldn't help decrying, "No, you can't just make shame. No, you mean something else, because shame is the soul and a stroke is the mind. She defended this point because shame was her constant battle. Wake up, and it was there. Speak, and it choked the words. Walk, and it froze her legs. She didn't smile in public or talk to most anyone besides Anjali. Shame kept her alone. Most of the time, it was... But maybe, she thought, it's just my brain is broken. She was Googling the words stroke symptoms when Anjali asked what she brought for lunch. They always ate together in the old shipping dock. The Quirk Goods offices occupied half of a converted army facility left over from the last big war. There were empty train terminals and a plaque with a picture of the time Elvis visited. I'm not hungry, Rebecca said, but Anjali had already left. She was mouthing the words to herself when the supervisor got a call and went pale. He set down the phone, wiped his forehead with a napkin, and sprinted for the stairs. Anjali returned then, passing the man as he thundered up the steps. What happened? He got a call, Rebecca said, eyes scanning the office of people too growing alarmed. Probably a big customer is pissed. I've never seen him run. If it's a big enough order, you do. That's why we're here. We measure your pockets, then calculate how big a dick we have to suck. Ugh, that's disgusting, Rebecca frowned. You should have seen his face when he went by. Like somebody just died. Other people in the office were now running to the stairwell, and it was then they heard the siren outside the building. Rebecca went to the window to see the ambulance, while Anjali left to join the commotion. Rebecca squinted at the bright sun. She could feel a headache coming. She rubbed her temple and listened to the people behind her chat. Brendan Fitzroy. Chris just told me it's Brendan Fitzroy.
Do I know him?
Yeah, you do. Brews his own tea at home, carries it in a jug.
Oh, yeah, I know Brendan.
Rebecca had to run Q reports up to Brendan when the intranet crashed once or twice a week. He sat right in the middle of the floor. Rebecca traced the path in the ceiling, right in the middle of the floor, near the column. Brendan sat exactly where she sat, just a floor higher. Now other coworkers made for the window. Outside, paramedics wheeled Brendan inside the ambulance, and his body was shaking. What happened? Someone said he just had a stroke. She turned on the TV, started movies, then stopped them. She picked up books, then set them down so she could pour a bowl of cereal, to which she didn't add milk. Every time she tried to distract herself, the distraction lost its grip, and her attention returned to the electrical currents in her brain, the conductive meat juicy and buzzing. She thought of dirty blood vessels and gushing blood and clots and clogs and swelling, and how you can sense symptoms up to an hour before. Would she smell burning? Would lights look different? At work the next day, Rebecca wanted to ask Anjali about her mom, but her office mate was gone. Christmas was approaching, which meant the customer service department was an irate hell. The bald supervisor swore all morning, and any time someone passed Anjali's station, they wrinkled their mouths with a "God damn it." Rebecca typed answers to furious customer complaints for hours. Despite the innocuous, goofy quality of their merchandise, customizable family art, brew-your-own beer kits, costumes for dogs, every complaint was swear-filled and indignant. She toiled under the barrage until she smelled burning. The sharp odor stung her nose, and she looked desperately to see who else smelled it. It was happening, wasn't it? Her monitor blurred, and the middle of her vision turned to static. She looked from the computer to the supervisor pacing between the rows of cubicles, and she couldn't see his face. Her breaths rose and fell faster and faster, and her eyes watered. When the supervisor shouted, Rebecca started crying. What am I doing to myself? She thought. Her sobs were unexpected and loud. So many eyes pondered her from scowling faces. She fled for the bathroom. Inside, she stared at herself in the mirror, as though hoping she could spot the unraveling seams. Do it, she said to herself. Just do it already. Anjali still wasn't back the next day. Rebecca went to HR to ask why she was gone, and a pallid woman with too much makeup explained she could not share private details about an employee. It's not like that, Rebecca explained. We're friends. Rebecca didn't have the vigor to explain their work-only relationship. She thought of her empty apartment and the 15 contacts in her phone, most from college and all distant. She apologized and left for her desk. The middle of her vision was clear and sharp, no smell burned in her nostrils, and she believed for the moment she had conquered her disobedient mind. Rebecca shook her head and clicked on the queue window, but her cursor didn't move. She slid the mouse back and forth, but it wouldn't respond. Her monitor flashed incandescent, then went black. Oscar? She called to the supervisor. He grit his teeth as he came to her computer. He started before the screen flashed. He slapped the monitor and slammed the mouse on the particle board table. He said, She jogged from the angry bald man, arriving at the empty station. She hadn't been on phones for 2 years. It was one thing to be assaulted by text through a screen, but to hear the person's voice, to hear them say her name, Rebecca put on the headset and opened the phone queue on the affixed tablet. You're fine, one voice thought in her head. The other voices were not so sure. She tapped the screen and the headset crackled. Hello, this is Rebecca with Quirk Goods. What seems to be the problem?
Yeah, I need to return 200 personalized mugs.
The woman on the other end sounded small. She spoke in a hurry with a forced aggression that left Rebecca wavering and nervous, like she tottered over the handrail of a tall building. I'm sorry to hear that, Rebecca said, hardly needing to consult the script. What about your purchase do you find unsatisfactory?
We don't need them.
I'm very sorry to hear that. To clarify, was there any problem with the merchandise itself?
No.
Rebecca's stomach fell. She already knew the bad news. You can't return personalized mugs. As long as they arrived safely, there was no getting a refund. It was part of the agreement you clicked if you approved the proof. So, to clarify, the merchandise itself...
Yeah, we already covered that. Listen, we don't want the mugs. It was a mistake, and we didn't even open the box.
I understand how frustrating this can be.
Uh-huh.
I am afraid, however, if there wasn't a problem with the goods themselves, we are not able to issue a refund. It's fulfilled through an outside vendor.
Shut up! It is not that hard. Just click the fucking button and give me our refund.
Rebecca felt like her body tipped over the railing. She lost balance and felt the ground sickeningly centered a mile below her feet. There's no need to shout.
If they arrived broken, you would have bent over backwards to apologize, and I'd have my full refund by now.
I'm sorry, Rebecca said, but she wasn't hearing the words anymore. Ears gauzy. I understand this can be very...
Fuck you! I'm going to write the biggest fucking Yelp complaint. We do big, big business, and now that's gone. Say goodbye, all because you wouldn't click a fucking button.
The blur returned to Rebecca's vision. Instead of her supervisor looking at her with growing concern as she sweat and turned paler, she saw only his bald blur grow staticky as her body disappeared from her control. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, she said. Her shoulders slumped diagonal in the plastic office chair. Her nostrils crinkled at a sharp burning.
This is a fucking scam,
the woman on the headset shouted, but Rebecca couldn't hear her anymore. Her arms started to raise, tugging the cable and ripping the headset from her ears. She fell to the floor. The supervisor shouted, running for the second time this week. As the coworkers ran to her aid, the woman on the other end seethed, and someone dialed 911. Rebecca's pupils rolled to the back of her skull, while her mouth jabbered in a loop. Don't tell Tippy, don't tell when Anjali finally called Rebecca. It took a week before the proper emails were sent confirming it was appropriate to share the information. Her former office mate was laughing on the other end.
Oh my God, you should have seen me.
Rebecca said slowly through what sounded like half of her mouth.
I had no control.
Yeah, I wish I could have been there for that. I was just so sick, Anjali said, voice oddly flat. She had taken the sick days to go to Disneyland with her brother's family, calling into work raspy-voiced from outside the Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin. I should have been there.
But I'm better now.
Rebecca slurred.
Did you hear about my nurse, Bernice?
It took a while to clearly communicate the information, but slowly Anjali learned all about Bernice. Bernice, Rebecca said, visited 6 days a week, and Bernice did everything. Dishes, meals, appointments, bathing, and outfits. Sometimes, she said, they just sat on the couch, and Bernice fed Rebecca, and they watched TV. Bernice always knew what to watch, and Rebecca didn't need to worry about what to eat, because Bernice made whatever Bernice wanted and fed it to her. She said the apartment complex sent exterminators to her apartment, but Bernice informed them she kept a tidy apartment and would not require their services, thank you very much. She filled the whole place up. For the first time, Anjali was the silent partner in their conversation.
So,
Rebecca wrapped up, tired from the strain.
Those mugs, did that lady get her refund?
Anjali finally laughed, and on the other end in the background, Bernice did too. Of course she did.